So now we're going to look at putting together the body of this entire web app. Let's get started. First, going back to our project, I need to add a few things. So we need to add assets. So assets in general includes images, SVGs, videos, and so forth. But in this case, it's going to be simple. We're just going to go ahead and add a few images. It's going to be image of me. Obviously, you're going to use your own photo and a few of these icons here, these social media icons, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Okay. So I have all of that prepared already, and you should have access to all of these. Now, what I'm going to do is we are going to add an assets folder outside of lib. So it's going to be inside of the root folder, which is portfolio.app, or portfolio app that is. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it and say add. And when that happens, you notice something strange. It just goes and adds it inside of screen. That's fine. So I'm going to say assets like this, and it's here, and that's not what we want. We want it outside. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that outside and add it somewhere there. Let's see, how do I do this? Let's add there. And even if you do that, notice it goes to the wrong place. So this is very important. I'm doing this because I want you to really see where things are supposed to go. So I want this to be outside, and it's not working. One of the things that I like to do is to right click and say reveal in Finder so that I can do that manually, because it seems to work better that way. So you can see when that happens, then I can just take this outside and put it like this. So now when that happens, you can see that we have our assets put there inside on a portfolio, and you can see now we have our assets at the root level of the project. Okay, that's how I found it easier to add anyway. And we go back, close everything down. If you close and open, you see close lib. You can see now we have those assets there. It's important that it is outside of our lib folder. It has to be direct child of our project. Very important. All right, now I'm going to add some assets. In fact, I'm going to go back to reveal in Finder because I find it way easier, as I said, to deal with this. So I already have a few assets of mine. So I'm just going to copy from, and you should have access to all of these, of course. So I'm going to copy a few things and move them over here, paste them in. Okay, so we have this picture of myself, yours truly, and then we have icons, which we don't need, but they're there. And these are the icons that we are going to use. Okay, so there we have it. So this has to be inside of assets, which is the direct descendant of our portfolio web, which is the main folder, in this case, our project folder. Okay, and make sure that all of that is also seen when we open our Explorer in our VS Code, which in this case, everything is good. And you can also click here and it should show that image. Very good. So you should have all these assets for you to play around with. And again, I encourage you to add your own images as well. Now that we have that, we need to make it so that Flutter knows where to find these images. And the best place to do that, where we connect everything together, where we tell Flutter compiler where to find these images, is inside of pubspec.yaml. To access that, there's a few ways. Obviously, you can go down here and click pubspecs, double click, and opens there. Okay. Or because we're developers, I'm going to show you a trick. Again, just say Command P, and then you can search. You can say, start typing pub spec, hit enter, and voila, it goes ahead and opens it. Very convenient. And let's see, there we go. So we have our assets. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and uncomment these assets. If you select everything and say Command / like this, okay, this will happen. Now you're going to have something like this if you installed the correct extensions. It's going to tell us that something is not right because it can't find anything that has this, right? This images.blur and all that stuff. That's fine because we haven't really done much, but at least we know everything is ready for us to actually put the correct images. So how do we do that? Well, in this case here, we want to make sure that we have access to assets. So I'm going to go ahead and say assets and then / that means we're going to the next folder inside. I'm going to say images / in this case. So I'm going to images, and then I want to get to social, right? So I get rid of that and say social. And because I want access, all of the images are inside of the social folder, I'm going to just put a / like this. So this is the simplest way to say, if you have a folder that has a lot of images, instead of doing one by one, right? Add as assets here. You can just say social like this and / and then it will infer from this command that you want all the images that are inside of the social folder. But the other thing we want is this headshot here. Notice that this headshot is inside of the images, right? It doesn't have its own folder. So I'm going to do the same thing, but a little bit different, obviously. I'm going to go assets and headshot.png. Notice it has to be exactly the same name of the image you added. Exactly. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. So go ahead and save. And it's going to say Flutter pub get running. So this is going to run itself, which is very handy. So you don't have to run yourself. If you wish to do so, you can go ahead and open again our debug console like that and go to terminal and you can run our Flutter pub get. Okay, if you wish to do so by yourself on your own. Okay, if we do that, things should be good. And sometimes you may need to restart the entire VS Code. Okay, just click out. All right, so we should be good. Get rid of pub spec and close all of that so we have more space. So now that we have everything set up, so what we're going to do, back to our main screen here. Remember, we're inside of a scaffold, which means a scaffold also has, so after our app bar, has a body, which we can pass a widget, which is very convenient because we want that so that we can have all of this. So here I'm going to pass a stack. Why a stack? Because we want to stack things on top of each other. So we have this illusion of, for instance, have this text, the background image, and so forth. So a stack is our main candidate here. So for a stack, it requires a children. Makes sense. We'll pass all of the widgets. And in this case here, I am going to pass a body, which we haven't created. Okay. This body here is going to be what we have here. So let's go ahead and create a stateless widget there, call this body. So instead of a container, we're going to return a row because what we're going to do really is we want to divide this into a row because we're going to have a left and right side. So this project and of course the kind of bio side of the body. Okay. So row, as you remember, puts things side by side. So we're going to have this side of the row and this other side of the row. So these are two things that are side by side. All right, so this is going to require children, of course. And the first thing I'm going to do is pass an expanded, right? Because I want to make sure that whatever we add inside of this left side or right side, that expands accordingly or encloses all of the widgets that it's hosting. So expanded, it requires a widget. What widget we're going to pass? In this case, I'm going to just pass a container for now. So I'm going to say container, and let's give a background color, or just a color, I believe. Yes, so it's colors, that red, so you can see the difference. And because I'm inside of expanded, you can pass here another property called flex. Flex tells us exactly how far out this expanded widget is going to take over, right? So we can say we want this to expand to flex out to, for instance. And then I can create another expanded. I'm going to say there, say expanded, just to show you. This other expanded is going to have another container, which is going to have color of colors, that green, like this, so to show you. And I'm going to add a flex of 4 or 3. Why not? Okay, so you can see. All right, so let's go back here and we should see the difference. Oh, beautiful. So like I said, because our left side, again, because we're inside of a row, we added the expanded widget, 2 of them. We're saying the first expand is going to just expand in the factor of 2, and the second one is going to expand in the factor of 3. So this just means if I say 2, 2, that means half, half. So if I save like this, you're going to see it's going to be in the middle. And the great thing here is that if I make it smaller, the expand is going to just use the same factor no matter what. Very good. So in this case, I'm just going to make this 1. That's fine. And the second one is going to be, I can say 2. That's totally fine. We can always change that. All right. So for the first one, I am going to actually, we have the container and the color. I'm going to change this to white, right? This is what we had before. And I'm going to add a child because a container requires a child. Now, because we're talking about this first site. Remember, this whole thing is a row, but inside of this row, I'm going to add a column because I want these items to be in a column. So we have this text, and this is drop me a line button, and then eventually something like this. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. So for the child here, I'm going to pass a column. It's a column as such, and just grab that one, and children, that's what it needs. Now, here's the thing, because again, we know that we're going to have this image in the background, and then on top of that, we're going to have this text and everything else. That means we're going to also add a stack within this first child of our column, because stack allows us to stack on top of each other whatever we want. So I'm going to say stack, and then I'm going to actually add an alignment here to be align center like this, because I want everything to be in the middle, centered. And I'm going to pass the children. So this is where we're going to pass all of these other widgets that we want. Make sense? So the first child I'm going to add, because we know that the background is going to be an image. It has to be the first thing that is added. Remember, the stack work that way. Whatever you put first, that's going to be the background. Anything you put after that is going to be on top of that first thing you added. So this works for us. So what I'm going to add here, I'm going to add an image asset. So I'm going to say image.asset like that, because we're going to get that asset from our assets that we added, which is headshot image. So I'm going to say something like this, headshot.png. Let's save this and see if that's going to work. And voila. Wow. Looks really nice. Let's get rid of this green thing here, because that's not helping us at this point. Let's just put it white for now, okay? And you can see it's looking really good. We have my picture, the picture of myself there. All right, now the idea really is we want to make it so that it looks something like this. So we're going to dim it down a little bit so it's not too in your face, if you will. Right, we can actually add opacity. So what we can do is look at this image, as you see here, and I'm going to say command period. I'm going to wrap inside of a widget. What widget? Opacity, like this, right? And in opacity, of course, it requires a few parameters we need to pass, one of which is, you guessed it, opacity. So the opacity in this case is going to be the levels of whether we're going to be able to see this image or not, the visibility of image. So the less close to 0, the less opaque, the higher the number, the more visible this will be. So in this case here, it goes from 0 to 1. So the closest we get to 0, the less we can see. So I can say 0.4 to get started. Save this and look at that, right? It's there, but let me perhaps put 0.5. Okay, did I save it? Let's save this. Okay, much better, right? Very good. So what do we do next? Well, next we want to add this text here, okay? Well, how do we do that? Well, we know we need to be inside of our stack, which is inside of our children. Let's get rid of this. So very simply, I'm going to just go ahead and put a comma there. And then I'm going to add our text. I'm going to say text. And this text is going to say something. I am Paulo. But something is happening. Well, it seems like because when we create this text, we have to put a string. If we put single quotes and then we're going to put apostrophe like this, it's not going to work because it doesn't know how to read that. So that's when we use the escape like this, so backslash, and then we can use the apostrophe. So I am Paulo, period, and then I want to go to a new line. As you see here, it says I'm Paulo, period, and then we go to a new line. And we can do that by just saying, again, something like this, backslash, new line, and that means new line. Say software developer, again, backslash there, and teacher, like this. And there it is, right? Very small, but it looks like something. All right, so we're making real good progress. We're able to see how we divided our main body of this whole website, of this whole web app, and also we figure out how to stack things on top of each other. So we have this nice illusion, as you can see here. We have the background of the picture, and then we have the text on top of that. In the next video, we're going to make it even better and add other widgets, as you see here. Very good. So we're making real good progress. I'll see you in the next video.